Hi, this is Mike Tallon, and this is the second part of a video series I'm doing on the genetic condition hereditary hemochromatosis, which is the condition at the heart of a book that I've just written, which is entitled Incompatible with Life, a Memoir of Grave Illness, Great Love, and Survival. And if you're interested in reading the introduction to that great book, please visit my website at www.michaeljtallon.com. In the first video, I gave an overview of hereditary hemochromatosis. It is the most common genetic disorder for people of Northern European descent, affecting 1 in 300 people. For people who are Celtic, people who are of Irish heritage, Irish-Scottish heritage, it's 1 in 80. People who have both alleles of the gene that gives you hereditary hemochromatosis. And it is an incredibly dangerous disease. It can lead you to be incompatible with life, or often it can lead you to be dead on the table before anybody figures out what's wrong. This is a disease that is very commonly diagnosed at autopsy. And that's the subject of today's video. I kind of want to question why this disease, which is very easily discoverable with a genetic test, is so poorly diagnosed and so often missed. And I think that there are 3 technical reasons for that, and then 1 real reason. I'll go through the technical reasons first. First, hemochromatosis and the conditions it causes are very late onset. It is a genetic condition, so you have it from the moment you are conceived, the moment you're born. But the illnesses associated with it normally don't develop until many, many decades into life. For men, the illnesses associated with hereditary hemochromatosis tend to develop in the 40s or 50s, as they did with me at 48. For women, it's often in the 50s or 60s, in part, or largely actually, because women are, through the process of menstruation, recycle their blood a lot more quickly than men do, unless we're off there fighting saber-toothed tigers or getting into sword fights. Less common these days than it was at some point in our development. And so for most of us who become ill from hereditary hemochromatosis, it doesn't happen until we're in our 40s, 50s, or even 60s. I think the second reason, technically, that it is a poorly diagnosed disease is that the diseases that develop from hereditary hemochromatosis are very easy to mistake for having other causes. You develop diabetes when you're 40 or 50 years old. The doctor most likely looks at you and thinks probably lifestyle choices, maybe too much sugar, too much Coca-Cola. You develop cirrhosis in your 40s or 50s or 60s, and perhaps the doctor thinks, well, maybe this is a drinker, or maybe they had hepatitis or some other liver disease. If you develop heart disease or arthritis, the same thing. These diseases that come from hemochromatosis are so easily mistaken for something else that often the doctors don't think to even look for the genetic cause, the genetic link. I ended up in the hospital with all of these things: arthritis and diabetes and cirrhosis of the liver and heart failure, and it still took several days for them to figure out that I had hereditary hemochromatosis. I think the third reason, technical reason, that this is an underdiagnosed disease has something to do with the genetic testing itself, and also the relationship between those who are homozygous for hemochromatosis, have both alleles of the gene, is that not everyone who has the genetic profile ends up developing a super high iron concentration. Take my family, for example. Both myself and my younger brother are homozygous for hemochromatosis. I ended up in the hospital almost dead. He's 5 years younger, which may explain part of it. But he's had very, very few problems. His iron levels have been a little bit elevated in recent years, but nothing like what I experienced. And so it's not a direct overlay. Add on top of that there are many other causes of having a high iron overload. And so it can be mistaken. The final part about the genetic testing is particularly for people who are my age, people who are experiencing the negative consequences of this illness now. We're almost, just by definition, by the way the disease works, we were born 30 years before there was a genetic test available. The genetic test for hereditary hemochromatosis has only been around since 1997. One can hope that it's becoming more prevalent, but I fear that's not the case, which gets us to the real reason that I think that this is an underdiagnosed disease, and it's because people aren't aware of it. Think of it this way. This is a genetic disorder that is very prevalent in people of Northern European or Celtic heritage. But most people who are of Northern European or Celtic heritage simply don't know that fact. Compare that to Tay-Sachs or to sickle cell anemia. If you are blessed enough to be born into an Ashkenazic Jewish family, the family knows there is enough publicity around Tay-Sachs that you can get the test. In fact, right now, Tay-Sachs, if you would like to have a genetic test for Tay-Sachs, you can order one on Amazon. Same thing for sickle cell. If you're blessed enough to be born into a family that is of African descent, your family is going to be aware, most likely because of the education around sickle cell anemia, that you can get tested for it. And again, you can get those tests online. That's not the case with hereditary hemochromatosis, and I believe it should be, because there are millions of us out there, and I'm a part of several different support groups online for people who have hereditary hemochromatosis, and one of the most common complaints is that the medical system failed us, is that this easily treatable, easily detectable disease was not found in us until we ended up, as I did, in the hospital and being declared incompatible with life. They were wrong, by the way. Spoiler alert. Still, if you'd like to read the introduction to this very, very good book, visit my website at michaeljtallon.com. And I will continue making these videos trying to spread some awareness about this genetic condition in the hopes that this will ultimately save lives. If you're part of the population, Northern European descent or particularly of Irish Celtic descent, it's probably worth speaking to your doctors and getting to know more about this condition. And I thank you very much for watching these videos, and I'll be back with another one very soon. And of course, as always, love to you all.